Good morning, dear students, and welcome back for your English online classes. I hope you all are keeping well and you all got the notice writing. It's PDF. Kindly go through it, and subjective papers, how it will come for your English, that also I have sent the PDF. I hope you all have seen. You can see it through the school's website, which is www.jyotischoolcharoda.com, or else through broadcast also I have sent. So my dear children, as you all know that in the midterm also 20 marks MCQ pattern questions will come, and this time also the questions will come from in between of the chapter. That's why, like the previous exam, I'll be reading the book for you, the chapter for you, so that you can go through the chapters, the lines, as well as the spellings carefully and properly. Don't forget to learn the poet's name and the poem's name, okay? It may also come. So let's start. 2.1, an interesting observation. Have you ever noticed how mothers usually hold their babies? Careful studies have disclosed the fact that 80% of mothers cradle their infants in their left arms, holding them against the left side of their bodies. One could say that it is because most people are right-handed. By holding their babies in the left arm, mothers keep their dominant arm free for their normal work. But a detailed analysis shows that this is not the case. Studies have shown that 83% of right-handed mothers hold the baby on the left side. But then, so do 78% of left-handed mothers. In other words, only 22% of the left-handed mothers have their dominant hand, that is, the left hand, free for normal work. Clearly, there must be some other reason why mothers prefer to hold their babies on the left side. The only other clue comes from the fact that the heart is on the left side of the mother's body. Could it be that the sound of her heartbeat is the vital factor? Perhaps during its existence inside the body of the mother, the growing embryo becomes fixated on the sound of the heartbeat. If this is so, then the rediscovery of this familiar sound after birth might have a calming effect on the infant, especially as it has just been thrust into a strange and frighteningly new world outside. The mother, too, soon discovers unconsciously that her baby is more at peace if held on the left against her heart than on the right. This may sound far-fetched, but tests have now revealed that it is nevertheless the true explanation. Groups of newborn babies in a hospital nursery were exposed for a considerable time to the recorded sound of heartbeat. This sound was at the standard rate of 72 beats per minute. There were 9 babies in each group, and it was found that most of them were crying for 60% of the time when the sound was not switched on. But this figure fell to only 38% when the heartbeat recording was being played. The heartbeat groups also showed a greater weight gain than the others. The heartbeat groups also showed a greater weight gain than the others, although the amount of food taken was the same in both cases. Clearly, the beatless groups were burning up a lot more energy as a result of their vigorous crying. Another test was done with slightly older infants at bedtime. In some groups, the room was silent. In others, recorded lullabies were played. In others, a ticking sound was operating at the heartbeat rate of 72 beats per minute. In still others, the heartbeat recording itself was played. It was then checked to see which groups fell asleep more quickly. The heartbeat group dropped off in half the time it took for any of the other groups. This shows clearly why mothers prefer to hold the child on the left side. It is interesting that when 466 Madonna and child paintings, dating back over several hundred years, were analyzed for this feature, 373 of them showed the baby on the left breast. Here again, the figure was at the 80% level. This contrasts with observation of females carrying parcels and other things, where it was found that 50% carried them on the left and 50% on the right. This heartbeat fixation also explains why we insist on locating feelings of love in the heart rather than the head. It also explains why mothers rock their babies to lull them to sleep. The rocking motion is carried on at about the same speed as the heartbeat, and once again it probably reminds the infants of the rhythmic sensations they had become so familiar with inside the womb, as the great heart of the mother pumped and thumped above them. Nor does it stop there. This phenomenon seems to stay with us right into our adult life. We rock with anguish, we rock back and forth on our feet when we are in a state of conflict. The next time when you see a new teacher in your class or a speaker sway rhythmically from side to side, check his speed for heartbeat time. His discomfort at having to face an unfriendly audience leads him to perform the most comforting movements his body can offer. He switches over to the old familiar beat of the womb. Whenever you find insecurity, you are liable to find the comforting heartbeat rhythm in one kind of disguise or another. It is no accident that most folk music and dancing has a rhythm of the heartbeat. Here again, the sound and movements take the performers back to the safe world of the womb. Second chapter, 2.2, Angels on the Earth. The word baby is used for a young human being below the age of 1 year or 18 months. After this age, words such as toddler and child are used. The word baby probably comes from baba, a sound made by many small babies and their parents. Newborn babies may seem helpless, but they are not. They can suck strongly to drink milk from their mother's breast. They cry if they are hungry or uncomfortable. They can hear well and usually recognize the voice of their mother. However, a newborn baby depends on someone, usually the mother, for food and warmth and comfort. Like other newborn mammals, human babies feed on milk. Milk from the mother's breast is ideally suited to the baby's needs, but sometimes a mother may be unable to feed her baby, perhaps for health reasons. In such cases, the baby can be fed with specially prepared formula milk powder. The powder is mixed with water and the baby sucks it through a rubber nipple from a feeding bottle. As a baby grows, milk alone is not enough. After several months, the average baby needs some solid food, that is, not milk. These first solids are usually cereals, mixed vegetables, fruits, or other bland foods. These foods must be mashed into a pulp since the baby may not yet have any teeth with which to chew its food. Changing from breastfeeding to eating solid foods is called weaning. There is no uniformly fixed time for weaning. It depends on how the baby and mother are getting on. Some babies are weaned at a couple of months, others are after a year or more. Then a picture is given over here in which the types of teeth given: baby teeth, upper jaw, central incisor, lateral incisor, cuspid, first molar, second molar. All this can also come for your exam. Next, a baby's first teeth usually appear about 7 or 8 months after birth. They are the 8 front teeth or incisors. As they grow out of the gum, they may make the baby uncomfortable. This is called teething, and some babies cry a lot during this period. Once the first teeth have appeared, the baby can bite and chew its own food and gradually eat a more varied diet. The second batch of teeth, the 4 cheek teeth or molars, appear at about 12 months of age. By the age of about 2.5, the child cuts all the 20 milk or first teeth. Babies grow and change very quickly. By the age of 6 months, most babies have doubled their birth weight from around 3.5 kilograms to 7. At 1 year, they may weigh 10 kilograms. Weight gain is quite a good indication of a baby's health. If a baby is not gaining weight over a period of several weeks, it may be ill. A newborn baby cannot even hold up its head and has to be supported at all times. At about 6 to 8 weeks, it is able to follow moving things with its eyes and starts to smile. At around 3 months, it will be able to raise the head. By 7 months, it will be able to sit up with some support and hold things in the hand. It will also babble simple sounds without any real meaning. During the remainder of the year, a baby learns to crawl and pull itself up into a standing position. By about 15 to 18 months, a baby is able to walk by itself and say a few words such as mama. Not all babies develop at the same speed. Some are able to crawl or walk earlier than usual, others a little later. This is not important and has no bearing on how clever or athletic the baby will be in the future. Babies must be kept clean to remain comfortable and healthy. They cannot wash themselves. Neither can they control their bowels or urine. So, a baby must be washed regularly. Although a thorough bath every day is not usually necessary, most babies begin to control their bowels at between 18 and 24 months, and their urination a few months later. I hope you can see the picture. At one time, it was common for babies to die from disease or neglect before they were even a year old. About 50 years ago, for example, in India, about 1 in 6 babies died during the first year of its life. But now, this figure has been reduced to about 1 in 40. There are baby clinics and primary health centers to advise mothers on the care of their babies and on the correct way to feed them at different ages. They weigh the babies to make sure they are developing normally. And if there is any doubt about their health, a doctor is there to examine them. Babyhood ends at about 18 months of age, and then childhood begins. It continues up to about 12 to 14 years. In this stage of life, 4 important changes occur. Children learn to walk and run. They begin to use language to communicate with others. They start to think and can solve simple problems. Finally, they begin to observe and imitate the people around them. When children are fully grown, They are about twice as tall and 4 times as heavy as they were at the age of 2. This dramatic change takes place slowly from 2 to about 9 years. During this period, children grow 5 to 8 centimeters and gain 2 to 3 kilograms a year. Then, after the age of 10, children grow faster for several years. This growth spurt begins 2 years earlier for girls than for boys. In most human families, children are loved and well cared for, but sometimes they are very badly treated by adults. Most serious problems arise when children are maltreated by their own parents or adoptive parents. In such cases, the abuse may not come to the notice of people outside the home until it is too late. Children come to believe that they are continually punished because they are really bad. They develop an inferiority complex which retards their physical as well as mental development. 2.3 The Homecoming. Fatih Chakravarti was the ringleader among the boys of his village. One day, a plan for a new mischief entered his head. There was a heavy log lying on the bank of the river. Fatih's plan was to roll it away with the help of his followers. The owner of the log would be angry and they would all enjoy the fun. Everyone liked the idea. But just as the fun was about to begin, Fatih's younger brother Makhan came and sat down on the log. Fatih was furious. Makhan, he cried, "Get up this moment. If you don't, I will trash you." Makhan didn't care. He only moved to a more comfortable position. Fatih ordered his followers to roll the log. The boys began to heave at the log. Fatih called out, 1, 2, 3, go. At the word go, the log went, and with it went Makhan to the ground. The other boys began to laugh, but Fatih was a little frightened. He knew what was coming. Makhan got up, screaming like a fury. He rushed at Fatih, scratched his face, beat him, kicked him, and then went home crying. Fatih wiped his face. He sat down on the log and began to nibble a piece of grass. A boat came up and a middle-aged man stepped onto the bank. He saw the boy sitting there and asked him where the Chakravartis lived. "Go and find out," said Fatih, and continued to nibble the piece of grass. At that moment, a servant came down from the house. He told Fatih that his mother wanted him. When Fatih entered home, his mother called out angrily, "So, you have been heating Makhan again?" "No, I haven't," said Fatih angrily. "Who told you that I have?" "Don't tell lies, you have," shouted the mother. "I tell you, I haven't," Fatih shouted back. "You ask Makhan." But Makhan thought it best to stick to his previous statement. He said, "Yes, mother, he did hit me." Fatih could not bear this injustice. He rushed at Makhan and rained on him a shower of blows. "Take that," he cried, and that for telling lies." In a moment, the mother took Makhan's side. She pulled Fatih away, returning his blows with equal vigor. When Fatih pushed her aside, she shouted out, "What, you villain? Would you hit your own mother?" It was just at this moment that the middle-aged stranger arrived. He asked what had happened. Fatih looked ashamed. When the mother looked at the stranger, her anger changed into surprise. There stood Bishambar, her elder brother. "Why, Dada, where have you come from?" she said, and bowed to the ground to touch his feet. Bishambar had come to see his sister after many years. Soon after her marriage, he had gone away to Mumbai and had started business there. She had lost her husband while he was still there. Bishambar had now come back to live in Kolkata. As soon as he found out where his sister lived, he hastened to meet her. The next few days were full of rejoicing. The brother asked how the two boys were doing in their studies. The sister said that Fatiq was a big nuisance for her. He was disobedient and wild. But Makhan, she said, was very good and gentle. Bishambar kindly offered to take Fatiq to Kolkata and educate him there. The widow mother agreed readily. When his uncle asked Fatiq if he would like to go to Kolkata, the boy's joy knew no bounds. "Oh, yes, uncle," he said joyfully. The boy was on pins all day long. He kept asking his uncle every minute when they would start. At night, he lay awake most of the time. As a parting gift, he gave to Makhan his fishing rod, his big kite, and his marbles. Fatiq reached Kolkata with his uncle. He met his aunt for the first time. She was not at all pleased with another addition to her family. Her own 3 boys were difficult to manage, and the addition of a village boy was terribly upsetting for her. Fatiq soon realized that he was an unwelcome guest at his aunt's house. His cousins mocked at him, and his aunt always found fault with him. Fatiq's situation at his new school also was no different. He was the most backward boy in the whole school. He gaped and remained silent when the teacher asked him a question. He was caned almost daily. When in the evening other boys were out at play, he would think of his village home. He would stand sadly by the window and gaze at the roofs of distant houses. His heart ached to go back to his village. One day, he plucked up all his courage and asked his uncle, "Uncle, when can I go home?" His uncle answered, "Wait till the holidays come." But the holidays would not come till October, and there was still a long time to wait. One day, Fatiq lost his lesson book. Even with the help of books, he had found it difficult to do his lessons, but now it became impossible. Day after day, the teacher caned him mercilessly. At last, Fatiq told his aunt that he had lost his book. "You country lout!" she cried in deep hatred. "How can I buy you new books 5 times a month?" That day, on his way back from school, Fatiq had a bad headache. At night, he had a shivering fit. He felt that he was going to have fever. The next morning, Fatiq was nowhere to be seen. It had been raining all night. Those who went out to look for the boy were drenched to the skin. At last, Bishambar requested the police to help him. At nightfall, a police van stopped at the door of the house. It was still raining. 2 constables carried Fatiq out in their arms and placed him before Bishambar. He was all wet and covered with mud. His face and eyes were red with fever. Bishambar took him up in his arms and took him inside the house. When his wife saw him, she exclaimed, "What a heap of trouble this boy has given us. Hadn't you better send him home?" Fatiq heard her words and sobbed aloud. "Uncle, I was just going home, but they dragged me back again." The fever rapidly increased. Bishambar brought in a doctor. Fatiq opened his eyes. He looked up to the ceiling and said, "Uncle, haven't the holidays come yet?" Bishambar wiped the tears from his eyes. He took Fatiq's thin burning hands in his own. He sat by his side throughout the night. "Mother, don't beat me like that," the boy kept muttering. "Mother, I am telling the truth." The next day, for a short time, Fatiq became conscious. His eyes wandered around the room as if he expected someone to come. Bishambar read the boy's thoughts. He bent down his head and whispered, "Fatiq, I have sent for your mother." The day dragged on. The doctor said the boy's condition was critical. Late in the evening, Fatiq's mother burst into the room like a whirlwind. She flung herself on Fatiq's bed and cried, "Fatiq, my darling, my darling." Fatiq's hands stopped beating up and down. Very slowly, his eyes opened. He could no longer see the people around his bed. At last he murmured, "Mother, the holidays have come." So dear children, these were the 3 chapters that I read for you. Next 3 chapters I'll do in the next class. Okay, kindly go through the chapters nicely. Thank you dear children.